Facebook is a social network giant that everyone in the world seems to use. Well, not everyone, but 17% of the planet's population does. That's over 2 billion active users of this one platform. Early this year, Facebook released their internal review guidelines to the public. The guidelines are referred to as community standards and detail what users of Facebook can and can't post on the platform. It also highlights what might be removed by the company's internal content review team and why it is deemed inappropriate. A potentially murky and controversial area of the platform's restrictions surrounds content that people may deem inappropriate, hateful, or just plain offensive. This type of content is found in Part 3 of the Community Standard Guidelines, titled Objectable Content. Content containing hate speech, violence, adult nudity and sexual activity, or deemed cruel and insensitive are all considered objectable to Facebook. They define hate speech as a direct attack on people based on what they call protected characteristics, such as race and ethnicity, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability. Types of attacks include violent or dehumanizing speech, statements of inferiority, and calls for exclusion or segregation, and are broken into different levels of severity. For example, in cases where someone is sharing what might be considered hate speech for awareness raising or educational purposes, or using derogatory words to refer to themselves in an empowering way, it will be allowed to stay under these guidelines as long as the intent is clear. Humor and social commentary are also allowed, again as long as the intent is clear. Content of a violent and graphic nature are controlled as a way to make sure all feel welcome on the site. If the content is perceived as glorifying or celebrating violence, suffering, or humiliation of others, it will be removed. Similar to hate speech, if it is shared in a way that raises awareness or for social and political commentary and discussion, it will be allowed, although with some limitations. Warning labels are also used in these cases, so users under 18 or people more sensitive to this kind of content are not exposed to it unless they click past the warning. Next, the default is to remove any images or videos of a sexual nature as a way to prevent the sharing of non-consensual or underage content. However, the intent and nature of the content is still taken into consideration in a lot of cases, and if it is clear that the nudity is necessary, for example for protest purposes or photos of mothers breastfeeding, it will be allowed. Lastly, and similar to hate speech, cruel and insensitive comments or content which involve the targeting of victims of serious physical or emotional harm based on their vulnerabilities are not allowed on the platform. The guidelines are said to still foster free communication, expression and connection for users, while trying also to keep the environment safe and welcoming to all. They align with principles valued by Facebook such as safety, freedom of expression and equity, and will continue to be developed into the future. Facebook has also introduced a means for users to appeal decisions if they believe their content has been wrongfully removed, to ensure fairness throughout the process. And with 510,000 comments posted, 293,000 statuses updated, and 136,000 photos uploaded every single minute, this is not a simple task. But with 73% of adult internet users having seen someone be harassed in some way online and 40% having personally experienced it according to research, it is a necessary one. For this reason, Facebook has increased the number of content reviewers employed by 40%, so they now have around 7,500 and are looking into AI technology to assist. But it largely remains a joint effort of users flagging inappropriate content and these content reviewers. Even with these efforts, they receive a lot of criticism, with some believing they are not doing enough to combat the rampant hate and harassment that occurs online, while others, like strong advocates of freedom of speech, believe they are being too strict. The whole issue is very subjective, and the biggest challenge for Facebook is trying to strike a balance between encouraging freedom of expression while appeasing those harmed by this expression.